So the Guardians say they're going to heavily rely on their young players, as always. Today we'll decide which pitchers have the best tool to help the pitching factory in 2026 and in the years to come.
Tanner Bobby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello there, Guardians fans. I'm sure nothing else in the city of Cleveland right now has your attention, and you all want to talk about what's going on in the Guardians pitching prospect development factory, right? That's all everyone wants to talk about right now in the city of Cleveland. This is Locked On Guardians. If you aren't getting Guardians talk somewhere else, you've come to the right place because we are Locked On Guardians, the only daily podcast on your Cleveland Guardians every single day, covering the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between, and the number one sports podcast network. So thank you for that. I'm Justin Lada, one of your two co-hosts for the last 4 years and counting, with my friend and co-host, as always, Jeff Ellis. And coming up here on my 19th season covering the Guardians minor league system as a prospect writer and editor.
As you mentioned, I'm Jeff Ellis. I've been here since Locked On started for baseball about 80 years ago. Before that, I was a national writer at Scout and 24/7, focused on prospects in the draft. So I want to thank you for making today's episode your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts, as well as a big shout out to all of our everydayers, all of our insiders, all of our Discord people, everyone everywhere. Thank you who are taking part or, leveling up your interactions. Even, everyone commenting. We had a lot of comments today. So thank you all.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody going through it with us, talking about off-season grades in the mailbag on Tuesday's show. But today's show, we're going to draft the best individual pitches in the Guardians minor league system and debate which arms and which pitches we are most excited about. So this is a prospect-heavy show. It is a pitching-heavy show. Later on, we'll talk about who put together the last pitcher or the best pitcher through this draft, this exercise, and we'll take a look back later on at last year's pitcher tool draft and see how things have changed for the Guardians and our evaluations of their pitching prospects over the last year. So it should be a lot of fun talking about the Guardians pitching factory. And I do think there's a lot of fun names to talk about. So I'm excited to see how things shake out in this one. And today's episode, before we get all into that, is brought to you by FanDuel. It is the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5. You'll get $200 in bonus bets if you win. All right. So we are looking at last year's
but before we dive in, should we, it almost feels like I should make a joke about how we should figure out right now what Cleveland will get for Kyle Manzardo to the Diamondbacks, right? Because now they've taken Cleveland's first baseman the last 2 years. So that means next year they, by all rights, are automatically get Kyle Manzardo. So there'll be a trade in a year from Kyle Manzardo to the Diamondbacks, right? That's how this works.
For Corbin Carroll. Sure. Deal.
Okay, there we go. Done and done. Okay, now back to our draft.
All in. That's all the listeners wanted to hear today, was talking about that. No. So Jeff had the first pick last year. So I believe I had the first pick last year. So Jeff will get the first pick this year. Believe it or not, this is our third year doing this. And how it goes is this. So Jeff will draft a pitch from a specific player. He'll talk about why he likes it. And so if Jeff picks that pitcher's slider, I cannot pick his fastball. So once a player is off the board, he can't be picked again for another trait. We each draft a fastball. We each draft a slider. We each draft a curveball, a changeup, and command. And maybe we'll throw some other fun superlatives out there if we have time to get into some silliness and other things. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. And we'll see how fast the names and the pitches and the traits dry up in this one. So, Jeff, who are you going with? What pitcher are you going with the first pick? What's the most valuable pitch in the system that nobody else has that it's so good?
Trent Denholm knuckleball. Now you can't have any knuckleball on your entire team. You're out of luck. I win that category, and now I win because I have a category you don't even compete. So if we're just looking at this for traditional 20/80 grade scale, there's only one pitch that I really see that has the potential to be an 80 grade. There's very few pitches that are 70 grade. If we're buying that he's going to help this year, then I think Daniel Espino is back in play. So I think I have to start with Espino's fastball. Like, it's the only pitch that I think has any chance of being an 80 grade. I was tempted to take something with Khal Steven just because I know he is your newest prospect crush, but I decided to not be a yerk and just go for the smart move, which is take the best pitch in the system when he's healthy, and that's Espino's fastball.
Yeah, so now he's off the board completely for everything.
Yeah, slider is he would have been top 3 for me in slider as well. So
yeah, I had his slider number 1 in mine too. Yeah, I really thought Espino would be the guy here for a fastball because it's hard to believe, but we're allowing ourselves to get hurt again, right? We're ready to be hurt again, and hopefully we're the only ones. Well, no, I guess if he gets hurt, we're hurt too. But yeah, no, it's still the best fastball in the system. It's got the great traits. The extension's beautiful. He can still hit 100. Is it what it looks like? Depends on how much he can make. That
103 anymore. That's the question.
What's that?
Can he hit 103 anymore? Do you remember
that?
Yeah,
the good thing is I don't think he has to. This fastball has so many good traits. He has such good extension. I don't think it matters. I think if he can hit 97 consistently, I think he'll be just fine. Just depends on whether or not he can do it in a everyday role or if he can do it in a rotational role, depending on how many innings they want to give him. All right, so in my mind, I have to go fastball now because there's only one other fastball in the system I feel really excited about and confident at this point. I don't think there's another fastball on the board that I would be comfortable taking in terms of, I only wrote 2 down. So I was praying you didn't get this before I did, but I'm going to take Joey Oki's fastball. He was
knocked out another slider that way.
I did. Yeah. I knocked out another slider. So slider is going to get very iffy in this draft now, but Joey Oki at the end of the season, now we'll see if he can do it over the course of a full season, but I'm excited about that. He was getting up to 100 himself, and there's just a lot of rise and tail on that fastball. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to follow him this year with his development there. The fastball has gotten a bump since what it was in high school. That's a great sign. That's a very good sign for him and his future, whether it's as a reliever or a starter. I think he's got the pitch mix to dominate as a reliever. He probably has the mechanics and the control of a reliever, so we'll see. But I feel pretty good about that fastball no matter what his role is going to be. And I don't see a fastball in this system.
There's another closer. One. There's Andrew Walters. He's still a prospect.
Yeah, he is still a prospect, but he was hurt last year. And I know Espino's been hurt forever, but I guess it's more what have you done for me lately? Like I considered Franco Alamon because he's had a good one too. I don't know. I'm just more excited about the traits of Oki and right now, I guess, than I am Walters. I need to see Walters because Walters is for sure a reliever. Obviously, we know that. There's still an outside chance Oki can be a starter. So I guess
it's just best traits and tools, right? So it's like I probably would have gone Oki slider and then come back to get Walters fastball because no one else is really going to take anything from him. That's more me gaming the system. So the next 2 picks we know are going to probably more likely than not, just based on how things fell, be Steven and Dowdy. So it's like, do you go for 1 for slider? Do you go for curveball? I feel like we're kind of looking at these 2. And at this point, I'm going to take Khal Steven in the slider. Like I do like his slider. I had 3 sliders on my list, and it was Espino, it was Oki, and it was Khal Steven. So as much as I know I said I wasn't going to take your guy when he's still sitting there at 3, I would be taking Khal Steven because I only had 3 sliders written down. Not that there aren't other good sliders, but I had 3 in a tier, and that's the end of that tier for me. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that point, but here's your chance to rebut that idea.
No, I'm mad at you now. I don't want to rebut it at all. No, you took. I had Khal Steven written down for multiple pieces in here. Like I had Khal Steven written down for his changeup. I had Khal Steven written down for his curveball. I had him down for command. The fact that you took command off the board for me to get him for command is what pisses me off the most, to be honest with you, because he far and away has the best command in the system of anybody, I think, and that's where I would have probably taken him over any single pitch. And that's why I'm most excited for him. I think there's the ability to he's already hit 97. Well, that was in college. Will he hit 97 as a pro? I don't know. It really depends. But if there's a pitching development team that's going to do it, if it's the Cleveland, and he has the command, he's got the 4 pitch mix, he's got the build. You know how much I liked him in college. I think I like him more now than I did when he was in college. I'm really excited about him. So yeah, I'm peeved that you took him off the board because I had him again for multiple pieces on here, and that should be a dead giveaway for what things are going to look like when we do our prospect rankings.
Yeah, Justin doesn't have him in his top 10 is what you're hearing.
Yes, I want to trade Khal Steven as soon as possible. All right, so Jeff's got Daniel Espino's fastball. He's got Khal Steven's slider. I've got Joey Oki's fastball and a lot of anger at Jeff. What else am I going to pick when we come back? Well, there's one big name still on the board that we have to get off here, I think, and steal from Jeff. So we'll have that next. Last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance for you to get in on the action before the NFL season comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of the action. The special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year, whether you're riding the favorite, which is the Seahawks by 4.5, or going with the underdog, or building one last same game parlay. It's the game everybody has been waiting for. On the other hand of things, the Guardians, the over-under on their win total on FanDuel is 79.5. I'm taking the over. And if someone correctly pointed out the other day, I was wrong on the favorites to win the AL Central. The Guardians are plus 310, which I don't agree with. The Royals are plus 210, and the Tigers are plus 165. Don't see that one at all. But we'll see what happens when the season comes up. If you're a new customer of FanDuel, you can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. If you win, make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us here, talking Guardians baseball and pitching prospects in the system. Always a fun time to do that with the Guardians as the spring training is getting underway, and always a lot of pitchers to talk about in the system. So we appreciate you being here, making us part of your daily routine. We are very grateful for that. If you are living with the Guardians every single day, take it up a level with our show. Go ad-free, join the Everydayer Club. That will get you locked on Guardians with no interruptions, and you'll get access to a members-only Discord server that's got us in there, other Locked On MLB hosts, other Locked On hosts from other sports as well. You can interact with us and all of them for just $5 a month and $50 a year. Go to LockedOnGuardians.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn a little bit more. All right, I decided to come back and not send Jeff to Abu Dhabi, but we're taking Khal Steven. So I'm going to go off the beaten path a little bit here. I know what you're expecting me to do here, but I'm not going to do it because there's another guy I want to talk about that I think is very interesting. So what I am going to do is I am going to take Braylon Doughty, but I'm not going to take him for a pitch. I'm going to take Doughty for his command. There are multiple guys. I do feel good about that. I think there are multiple command guys in this system. Like, there's multiple guys here that I think have good command traits. You know, you took Khal Steven, who would have been number one for me. I actually have a total of 4 guys on this list that are not named Khal Steven, believe it or not. So I think the system is well stocked with guys who can throw strikes. But I'm taking Doughty off the board for you because I know there's one pitch, and I don't think there's another pitch that he throws that you're going to get from somebody else in this list. So I'll be curious to see where you go.
Curveball.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't think there's anybody else in the system that throws a curveball like Braylon Doughty. So
no, I mean, no one throws it like him, but there's, I mean, if I'm really feeling against it, I got a few guys for curveball. I'm not worried about that. I mean, it's right. You know,
go for it.
But I'm not gonna do that because I'm trying to build the best pitcher possible. So instead, I'm gonna go Parker Messick and his changeup.
Yeah,
you know, like he's still there. That gives me I got a fastball. I got a change. I've got a slider. I've got a pretty good pitch mix. I'm feeling pretty good right now with those 3. So I'm just gonna, I've got a few players at the back trying to get a curveball and trying to work on command is going to be interesting. I'm not gonna lie, but there's a few names left. There's a few players I like. There's a few guys maybe a little bit further down the beaten path, but yeah, you just took Messick off the board for command, which would have been a good one too. No, that's a good pick. Honestly, I think considering we both you took Espino and I took Oki, the 2, I mean, I guess if you want to throw Walters in there, it's a good fastball, but I need to see him back and healthy first. But Messick probably has the best secondary in the system. I think that changeup is better than any individual player's curve. Like, I think it's better than Doughty's curveball. I think it's better than anybody's slider. I think it's the best secondary the Guardians have in any single secondary pitch in their farm system. Yeah, I mean, at least in terms of like current pitch. Yeah, there's a few that maybe could get there.
But one we know the most about is Messick. Yeah.
And the other fastball guy, honestly, just to bring up another name, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should hold on to this guy. But no, I mean, you might grab him for his slider. Is Yorman Gomez? That would have been the other fastball guy in the system.
Yeah, he's got a good one too. No, at this point I will go for another changeup since you took Messick, and honestly, it's kind of funny. I don't think there's a lot of changeup artists in the system anymore. Like, for a while, it seemed like the Guardians had a ton of guys with good changeups. Joey Cantillo has finally graduated. Eli Morgan is out of the system, and at one time we would have had Hunter Gaddis' changeup. Yeah. I think Doughty has the traits to throw a good changeup one day too. Tugboat's got a good changeup too, but I'm not taking Tugboat's changeup. I'll take Josh Hartle's changeup. I watched him a lot last year.
There's one of our command names as well, Gone.
Yeah, he was one of my command guys too. I think I'm really excited about where Josh Hartle is going. The fastball is never going to be special. It's always going to leave him vulnerable, but he's got the command back that he had in college. I think he's fixed that. We'll see what happens when he gets to AAA, because we know what happens with for some reason, again, the AAA baseball is the major league one, and below that is a different one, which makes no sense to me still. But I think he's got multiple good pitches now that are all like 50 or 55s, and he's got command. And the fastball, I don't know, maybe the fastball is more for 45, but if that's enough to get by, then it might be interesting. So I was excited to see what Josh Hartle did last year, and that's why I went with his changeup, because after that, I wasn't really sure who else had a changeup I felt really good about. Like, I like Khal Steven's changeup, and I liked Tugboat's, but not as much as Hartle's.
Yeah, it's that situation. I don't have a long list of changes. I was trying to think like what Will Hines throws and Peyton Pallette and some of the newer guys. I was like, doesn't Hines have a changeup? Wasn't that his big? But no, he was more fastball slider. But
guy.
Control. Yeah, the control players are going fast off the board. So the question is, do I go? I think I got one player I got to take here. I think that's Austin Peterson. Now the question is, do I go with his curveball or do I go with his control? Because I could go with either one of those here. I think I'm going to be a bit crazy here. I don't have a lot of curveballs I like in this system. You're very right about that. I don't have a lot of ones to go. So I'm actually going to take his curveball because there's a few other guys who do have decent command. Whereas, you're going to be better able to pull out a really good curveball name than I am. You know the system better than I. Like I'll be very honest about that. You're more in the weeds than I am. So I'm like looking at it and I'm like going through my list of guys. I'm like, Jake Miller, that's not the pitch I associate with him. Like I was trying to think through guys I knew in the system who are not like top 30 guys for me. And I couldn't really pull out another good changeup after Peterson. So like it's probably a 50. I've seen it in other places. Maybe some people think it could be slightly above average. It's probably an average pitch, but because there's so few curveballs and Doughty out and a few other players, I'm taking Peterson just because I'm kind of at a loss.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a good curveball. I do like it. It's a newer pitch for him. I think it could be at least average. I think that's the problem. Again, Doughty's got a good curveball. Khal Steven's got a good curveball. Doug Nikhazy at one time did. I don't know if he does anymore with his new arm slot. Messick's is okay. People like Yorman Gomez is a little bit. So there are a couple, but there is no standout one. Actually, I'm being very honest. If and I'm going to go with the curveball next too. I could have saved this till. Actually, no, I'm not going to go with the curveball because
Caden Favors. Is that who you're going to go with for curveball? He's the other guy.
I am going to go with Caden Favors. You know what? Since you just said it, yeah. A lot of people aren't going to know that name. This is a kid out of Wichita State who is very lanky. He's 24. And look, there are reports of him hitting 97 with the fastball. I haven't seen that myself personally. I checked on some data with that, and he might have done it once, but it was not even not like he repeated it. You know what I mean? So he's more 90, 92. Maybe there's more in there. I know he gets great extension because he's lanky as all heck.
Yeah.
But that curveball, if you watch, go find video of his curveball. Maybe I'll post them on Twitter or Blue Sky. The curveball is so pretty. It is a huge 11-5 hook. And ever since the days of Barry Zito, I've always been a sucker for a big left-handed overhand curve. So maybe that's what appeals to me here. But I think it's a good pitch. I actually think Caden Favors would make an excellent replica of Sam Hench's. He's tall. He's lanky. The fastball would tick up in the bullpen. The curveball, I think, would work in the bullpen. So maybe Favors starts, maybe he doesn't. But I think he'd make an excellent replica of Sam Henches. Don't tell my wife what a big crush on him. I don't know if Favors looks anything like that with the beard, but
the question is, what is your wife like more, Heated Rivalry or Sam Henches? Which one is she? There's her.
Boy, I'll have to ask her that question.
Is that her Sophie's choice? Like,
that is her Sophie's choice. Yeah, she might have to sleep on that one. I don't know. That's gonna be tough. I'll ask her tomorrow, and I'll get back to you with the results on that. All right.
Okay.
So we still have a couple picks on the board we have to get through. Jeff still needs command. I still need a slider, and that's about it. Then we'll go through and review those, and then we'll look at last year's selections, and we'll see what has changed with the Guardians pitching factory over the last year coming up next. The offseason is technically not over. It's almost over. We're here 5 days a week for you, no matter what, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But you can always get more information, more Guardians baseball talk. If the Discord is not for you and you want one-on-one texting, you want to get news to your phone as soon as it happens, or anything else, if you want to participate in our mailbag shows, that where you can do that is joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians. And we do monthly video chats with the insiders as well. So multiple ways to interact with us, interact with the show, ask questions, have a lot of fun, talk more Guardians baseball, because we know you're not really getting it here anywhere else besides here and another podcast or two that are out there. So enjoy it, and we'll enjoy interacting with you. That is not a Paul Dolan quote. All right. So yeah, right. No. All right. So I just took Caden Favors curveball. So you've got you need command. That's your last pick, right? This command.
I do need command. I got a few guys to look at for that one. I'll say the other curveball guy, I was never gonna draft him, but like, wasn't that what Jackson Humphreys had back in the day? Wasn't that like one of his calling cards pitches?
It's still a good pitch, but the shape is not as tight as Caden Favors. Like, there's a lot of weird oddities about his curveball. Like, he doesn't have it quite. I don't think the grip or the command is good either, but the shape of it's a little awkward. Caden Favors, it's just, I don't know, it's beautiful. It's got the rainbow.
Yeah, I probably should have gone with him. He has a better curveball than Peterson, but I had a blank out. Like, the names I'm kind of looking at here, two of the guys I'm not going to like. Franklin Gomez is like a borderline command guy. Like, it's been kind of up and down for a guy his age. I feel like it's actually pretty good. Dylan DeLucia, I was kind of looking at as well. But I think I got to go with someone I mentioned earlier, Trenton Denholm. Like, his stuff has never quite played up, but the one thing he's always had is the control and the command. He's pretty good about hitting his spots. The fact he can throw the knuckler with any degree of effectiveness, he's more luck than command. But like, I feel like Denholm, like, that's part of the reason I predicted that they would draft him in the 2020 draft, and they didn't. They drafted him in the 2021 draft because of his profile of missing bats in college with the control numbers. With a lot of the other control standouts being gone, I'm going to go with Denholm here.
Yeah, kind of surprising that he was the last one here. I mean, you could have gone with DeLucia. I'm surprised you didn't go with Tugboat, because honestly, the only thing that Tugboat that it might get him to the majors is
I feel like he does it. I feel like my issue with Tugboat is I feel like there's good. I feel like there's okay control, but I feel like he misses too much. Like, I feel like he gets hammered because his stuff isn't good enough. His stuff isn't great, and then, like, I don't know. No. I feel like we kind of saw that funky lefties can get away with more in low A than they can any other level, and it just kind of blew up for him this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the product again of you taking Khal Steven's slider, and I took Braylon Dowdy's command, and then I took Hartle's changeup, and you took Messick's changeup. Those were all the command guys. So
and I took Peterson's curveball, who was another guy. I mean,
yeah, you could have left his command too, because those are all the command guys. So that just tells you kind of where the hierarchy is in the system. All right, so I have the last pick here then, and I am taking Franklin Gomez's slider. I was doing some last-minute video studying before this, and Franklin Gomez has a great slider. I am extremely excited to see what he does. I think he'll start.
What would you have done if I had taken him for command, out of curiosity?
What I for slider?
Yeah.
If I probably would have had to go with Walters or Franco Alemán. There weren't a lot of guys left at that point. Like, I mean, the sliders in the system, I guess I could have taken Yorman Gomez. So one of the Gomez's probably would have been my slider no matter what. Interesting that neither of us took a Yorman Gomez pitch, by the way.
It had to be fastball or slider for me. Those are the only ones that really stood out. And I don't like the slider.
He was the biggest helium guy in the system last year.
Yeah, he was.
Pitching. He came out of nowhere to get on to the 40, and neither one of us are. I mean, he would have been
my number 2 guy for fastball.
Really? Okay. I mean, it does get up to 97, so I guess I could see that. But I don't know. The traits are just so much better when it comes to Oki and Espino. But
I was just focused on Espino, obviously, but for Oki, I was just very focused on that slider. His slider is it might be my favorite in the system.
It's good. It's good. It was on my list for slider. If I would have gotten Espino's fastball, I would have taken Oki's slider if he was there. So I do think it's interesting you went with Espino's fastball first. I wondered how fast that would come up just because, were we ready to buy back in after a couple of AFL innings? And it sounds like we both were.
Yeah.
We're both there. No, Franklin Gomez is going to be a lot of fun. By the way, let me ask you this. We were talking about maybe doing oddities from this too. Better nickname. I learned while I was doing some film review that Franklin Gomez's nickname is Little Giant because he's 6 foot tall, but he's got Jose Ramirez level swagger on the mound. He has the attitude and he's fearless. Little Giant or Tugboat? We got both ends of the spectrum here. Which one is the better nickname?
I don't think you can beat Tugboat.
No,
that's my general opinion. So I've got one realistic one and then a second one, which is kind of like people always laugh at how I use this for evaluation with pitchers. One is who
biggest butt,
who's got the biggest posterior, and then the other one is who do you think is the most athletic? Who is the player who has the best athleticism? Because one of my longstanding things has been the idea that the more athletic the pitcher, the more likely they are to long-term avoid injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Boy, the athleticism is hard. I mean, Braylon Dowdy would have been the guy I went with there. I did put delivery and build down. Dowdy's undersized, but he's extremely athletic.
Former shortstop, right?
Yeah, and he's a great golfer, just an incredible athlete. Chase Mobley
on that list too.
Yeah, he's a basketball player. I think Chase Mobley is very athletic. If you want to go with a guy that we didn't do anything with yet, Chase Mobley, I think, is there. Who do you have? I don't know who has the biggest butt. I got to be honest with you. I have not studied that closely. I did tell my wife, that is a thing, by the way. I did tell my wife that a couple of years ago, and she was like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, go back and look at Roger Clemens. He had a huge lower section in terms of his thighs and his butt. So it's a thing."
Yeah. I mean, that's why one of the things I wrote about Ryan Sloan back in the day, one of the reasons I had him is my number in the top 3 prep arms in his class.
Yeah,
I was big on him. It's just it gives you need a base to throw from, and
that is what it is. Yeah. Best last name in the system, Harrison Bodendorf. That I said that yesterday. We were joking. I was like, Harrison Bodendorf. That's going to be a fun name on a jersey, right? Bodendorf. I hope he makes it just for that.
Yeah, I was trying to think. They don't have any really ridiculous names. We are a long way from the Sicknar loose.
We got Aiden. We got Aiden Major. That's kind of fun. I think Bodendorf is a lot of fun.
The problem is Aiden is he's part of that group where every kid was an Aiden Hayden. The Den. He's part of the Den era of.
Can we take Cam Schulke's delivery? It's the most unique delivery in the system.
Yes, 100%. I do like Cam Schulke's delivery. He's a fun one to watch.
Yeah, he's a fun one. I did put upside development as a category just for a fun one, and I was like, who has the most upside development here? And I did Dowdy Oki and Franklin Gomez, I think, as the ultimate upside guys.
I would also still throw in I know Mobley didn't have the best year, but they paid that dude a second rounder. He was essentially Cam Sullivan, and that's the thing, right? Lots of prep arms, you're essentially betting on maybe one of them, and they went hard with prep arms after Bazana, and we haven't. And even the previous years, we talked about Humphrey. You and I didn't talk about Jacob Zibin, who has barely had a chance to pitch due to injury. And then should we have the guy who has has the most ammo left in his arm, being Justin Campbell, because he's never thrown a pitch. He's Rule 5 eligible this year, right? And he hasn't thrown a pitch yet.
Is his arm even still attached to his body? We don't even confirm that. It's
for as much as we're Espino and DeLatter and Valera, and we talk about their injury issues, somewhere Justin Campbell's that sounds dreamy to me.
Yeah, I'd love to play in
and he was
10% of the games.
and that's one of those things that really stings too, because You and I both liked him as a pitcher. He's a big kid from Oklahoma State. They've taken a lot of kids from Oklahoma State because I think the development at the time was kind of meh. But he's a big kid, great traits. He was a first rounder. He was a first rounder that has never seen the field. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I was gonna say the other one here. Jogley Garcia is a guy that's got a great curveball. Also
great name too.
Jogley, yeah. Rafe Schlesinger, we didn't mention. Like, I do think there's a combination there. There's a pathway to a major league pitcher there. I'm curious to see what the factory does with Ryan Prager from last year. Like, he was the guy you and I both loved his junior year. If
Good
they can help him,
too. Another slider,
changeup, high rise fastball. How about this from last year too? I'll pull this up on YouTube, but I'll also say it too. How much things have changed from a year ago in terms of pitch quality. So you and I both took relief fastballs last year. You took Alaman, I took Walters. Neither one of them got drafted for anything this year because they've been inconsistent and hurt. And
I think we agreed Noah Espino last year. We made a gentleman's agreement.
We did have Espino off the board just because we didn't know. But now that he's shown us 5 AFL innings, we're excited.
What's he doing in the NFL? He can't stay healthy in baseball. Get off the field.
Supposedly throwing a football is supposed to be good for your arm, I've heard. So there is that. No, but I think it's interesting that we both took relief fastballs that didn't make it this year. Doughty, you got Doughty's curveball last year, which I think still is the best curveball in the system. I took Chase Mobley, who neither one of us took here. I did take Rafe Schlesinger's slider, and I still like it. But the fact that Franklin Gomez is here, I think, is fun. They're both lefties, though. And, Joey Cantillo graduated from this list. By the way, Joey Cantillo made the biggest jump on, Saris's stuff plus from last year. He had a plus 12 and stuff plus overall. Now, granted, he was 89 before, and now he's a 101, but that's a big jump. So excited for him. You got Messick's changeup a year ago, which is still the best pitch in the system, I think, in terms of secondaries. And then I had Peterson's command last year. You got it. And I got Hartle's command this year. Or I had Doughty, but I had Hartle this year for the changeup. So interesting how that changed.
I think one thing that really stands out looking at that, to me at least, I know we're starting to run a long time, is like we had to rely so much last year on guys who had barely pitched in the system, guys who'd been barely part of the system. We are projecting. Like Mobley hadn't pitched. Doughty,
barely. No, not at all.
Barely, right?
Like Mobley, Oki, and Doughty had not pitched. Neither did Rafe. So 4 guys on this list, and Josh Hartle. He had not pitched for the Guardians in the system yet. So the only guys that had pitched were Walters, Alaman, Cantillo, Messick, and Peterson. So more than half the list last year, nobody pitched for the Guardians. And if they did, it was very, very brief. So that shows you the quality has gone up. Like Espino's back. Oki had a great year. Gomez is here. I took Favors off the beaten path. Peterson, made it up a little bit. He's on the 40 now, right? Like Messick made his major league debut. Like there's a lot of development this past year in pitching. So I know people are frustrated with the offseason approach to offense. Not that anybody was worried about the pitching, but I think the pitching's in a better state now than it was this time a year ago.
100%. It's definitely very much changed. And so there's so many guys, Yorman Gomez not even making it is kind of crazy.
Right. And he's on the 40 now.
Yeah. And I think you and I both have him on our top 20 prospects, right? Like,
Yeah, which we'll get to here sometime in the month of February for sure. All right. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Guardians. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know who you thought made the best picks and who has the best pitches. Make sure you subscribe, follow, all that good stuff so you get the latest episodes. Join the Everydayer Club if you're in it every single day. Ad-free shows, members-only Discord access. That is over at supercast.com/LockedOnGuardians. And tomorrow, we'll do roster projection 3.0. We'll see how badly I goofed up on 2.0 because I know I made some moves that I thought were going to happen, and they didn't. So now we'll have to see who actually will make this roster out of spring training based on nothing happening.
Thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily, leave a comment. Whatever you can do, help us out. Thank you all. We appreciate it.